All right. Welcome again to the Gen.AI Meetup Podcast. I'm your host, Shashank, and I have my co-host, Mark, here with me back in the flesh. Today, we're going to talk about a couple different things. We have some fun new announcements from OpenAI with their Sora 2 model, some faster, more performant models from Anthropic with their Claude 4.5 Sonnet, a really fast model from Grok with their Grok 4 Fast. We're going to chat a little bit about browsers too, because it seems like that industry is maturing with AI-powered browsers, where Comet from Perplexity is now available to everyone, and then close it out with a discussion about if NVIDIA is going to take over the entire GPU market or if there's some space for specialized compute chips. But talking about Sora, so Mark got an invite from a mutual friend of ours, and he's been playing around with the video generation while I've been comparing it to the VO3 model from Google, which was released maybe like a couple weeks ago. I personally thought that the VO3 model has done this a while back, but I stand corrected. So it seems like Sora 2 is actually better. It's able to generate more coherent, better looking clips. I don't know if you can share that with me and I can try to play it. But
Yeah, I'll send it over to you. So it seems to me like there is a new king of video in town. I think that the Google's Gemini, or not the Gemini, but the VO model was the previous king, and now there is a new king in town, and it looks like OpenAI is making a social network. So Aman, thank you so much for the invite, and I've only been able to play with Sora for maybe about 20 minutes, but those 20 minutes were pretty mind-blowing, I must say. So for those that haven't got an invite yet, let me briefly describe what Sora is. So Sora is OpenAI's newest video generation model. Now, their video generation model is also paired with a social network. So the social network, you can pick your own. You can pick your you can pick your own username. So I was able to get one out. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get Mark or anything too short, but I got a 5 letter username, so I was pretty happy about that. And then it's kind of like a TikTok style feed where you can scroll on Sora and then look at all the videos on it. So and every single video is AI generated. So they have a bunch of videos of Sam Altman doing things. Sam Altman talking with SpongeBob. They have SpongeBob. They have a Pokemon running around. So it seems like Sora is a highly capable model, and it can do some very complex tasks. So we actually tried, Shashank and I, we tried to compare a Sora with the VO model, so OpenAI's model with Google's model. And I mean, like really, it seems like the OpenAI model is just like way better than the Google model at this point. So Google, if you're listening to this, I really hope you catch up because I'd like to see a little bit more competition here. But this is quite impressive. So I think Shashank's going to try to share his screen, but I'll for the audio listeners, I will describe what we're doing. So the first one I did is I tried the prompt of I asked the model to make a video of a horse riding an astronaut in space. So now, if you guys hear that, you hear kind of like the music. That is the audio of the video. And if you're on YouTube, you're watching this. The horse isn't quite riding the astronaut. The astronaut and the horse are just kind of floating there. But I guess how much could an astronaut or a horse really be riding on an astronaut in space? So now the reason I did that particular prompt is because you're never going to see that in the training data. So if you guys want to try something that is going to be challenging for an LLM, do something that it will have never seen before, right? So it's like there's tons of videos of people riding horses or astronaut riding horses or things riding horses, but not the other way around. And therefore, it's like, can the video do that? And another thing is, if you ever look into like a magazine and you ever look at a watch, like a picture of a watch, there's always going to be one time on that watch. And that watch time is always going to be 10:10, because it's like you have the like the minute hand and the second hand kind of pointing up, and it sort of looks like a smiley face, right? So that you're always going to see 10:10. So if you ever ask an LLM to make a time on a watch, like if I say make it at 12 o'clock or make it at 5:30, it just won't do it. So neither can Sora. So I tried to make a video of a mechanical watch at I think I said 5:30, and I said 6:30, and it actually didn't do it. But it did better than 10:10. So it actually made it at 10:34. So it's close. It's like it got the 30 part right. The hour hand was wrong, but I'm fairly impressed. And then let's see, we did one more video where we made a hippopotamus dancing with a horse doing bachata, and Sora did really well on that. That was incredibly good on how well it made the horse and the giraffe and the hippopotamus dancing bachata together. Shashank, I don't know if you're able to share that video. I think I sent it to you.
Yeah, let me share it again. I was sharing it earlier, but I tried to do the same with VO3, but it wasn't nearly as good. The fidelity of the video quality was kind of bad, and also the actual characters and the animation didn't adhere to the prompt. So Sora is definitely better. I'm excited to see what Google comes up with as a response, but I think we are also kind of narrowly focusing on the two big players in the space. For those that are deeply immersed in video generation, we hosted a video generation event a couple months ago, and those folks are using significantly niche apps that are able to do style transfer, that are able to do consistent characters, that are able to more consistently rely on the prompt and match exactly what you're asking for. I think Kling, Pika Labs, Runway ML, those are the ones that come to mind. I haven't personally tried those ones recently, but it seems like the entire video generation space is maturing, and I'm excited to see OpenAI make a big leap.
Yes, and also I've started getting recommended a lot of AI-generated videos on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are quite funny because they'd be things that you would never actually see in real life, like talking babies.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the Rick and Morty interdimensional cable, where there's like extremely absurd characters and scenarios being played out. But it seems like OpenAI hasn't just built a video generation tool or an API. They're trying to build a social network. Similar to Zuck's social network. What is that called again?
Threads?
No. Zuck made a new social network, AI for specifically AI generated content.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. What is that? What is that called? Vibes. Yes. Vibes. It seems like people are trying to lean in to this as a new form of creation and be open about the fact that this is AI generated. To be honest, I don't know how popular that's going to be, but again, I have no pulse for what the next generation is interested in, what they are engaged by. So time will tell.
I don't know. I think that, just me putting on my speculating hat, I think it will end up being more and more popular over time, because you'll be able to make things that could just never exist in the real world. And I think, there's always going to be a place for humans in front of a video, because people want to see what can other humans do. But there's also a place for video games, right? Where you can make your Red Dead Redemption, your Skyrim, your whatever game you want, right? And your Minecraft. You can people want to immerse themselves in worlds that never existed and live out just incredible lives inside those other imaginary universes. And I think that in the future, we're going to have entire AI-generated movies. And then, we'll probably see it in the future where you can maybe hook up some sort of computer to your brain, and then the movie will generate in real time to optimize for whatever emotion that you want. I think that's where this is ultimately going. And people will want that, but they will also want to see people in front of a camera doing things that only humans can do. And I think there'll be room for both. And I personally think that both will be incredibly popular. And if OpenAI and Facebook both think that this could be a potential path forward, they have more data than anybody. Facebook has more data than anybody about this type of thing. And it's coming, right? I'm getting recommended videos on YouTube, and YouTube is the biggest video sharing platform. And if I find it funny, I'm sure lots of other people will find it funny too. So bring on the AI video.
Yeah, I think having a feed of content is also a great way to encourage engagement, because I remember the early days of Midjourney. All you could see was an entire feed of AI-generated images that other people had created, and use that to then fork off of their ideas to generate things on your own. And that really drove the entire creator ecosystem within Midjourney, where you kind of wanted your creations to be seen by other people, upvoted, shared, and gain virtual internet points for that. So this kind of reminds me of a podcaster that I really like, The Diary of a CEO. He was talking about the fact that there's so many social networks today with, I think there's 5 to 10 social networks with 1 billion plus users. There are dozens with hundreds of millions of users and hundreds with tens of millions of users. So I think there's a lot of space and a lot of demand for a variety of content, including AI-generated content. And you're right, I have been seeing a lot of AI-generated content on my feeds as well. So it seems like there might be a need for this. I wouldn't necessarily say that just because Facebook has a lot of data, they're going to make the right decision. They blew through a ton of money investing in AR and VR. That didn't necessarily pan out, although they went through a lot of pivots to end up on the augmented reality glasses, which I saw a friend wearing yesterday, and it actually seems really cool. So they may not nail it on the first try, but it seems like there might be a market for this.
So I think that Facebook has a lot of testing in their DNA, where they will run a lot of experiments, and they don't necessarily know what will work, but they will try a lot of things and see what works. I know people who worked at Facebook in product there, and they said that testing is definitely part of their culture. And I think that ultimately they will kind of stumble upon the right solution. So I think that the fact that Facebook has gone so public with their metaverse approach and also AI video, I don't know. I know it's easy to kind of pick on Zuck for trying these things, and there's demo failures or whatever. But I'll hand it to them. They're trying a lot of different things, and I think something's gonna work out there.
All right, the next item was Claude 4.5 Sonnet. So I've actually tried this out in Cursor as well, and it seems pretty good. I can't notice the nuances or the minor differences, but it seems to be topping the charts on Sweetbench, and it seems like a better model. Anthropic has always been the best coding go-to choice for software engineers. But the con is that it is significantly more expensive, and you're going to burn through credits pretty fast.
Yeah, I've tried it out, and it definitely feels like a good, solid model. But I think that it's just too expensive for my use cases. So after we had that conversation about vibe coding, I've really leaned in to using Cursor.
I'm really glad.
Yeah, so I'm really glad we had the episode. So if you guys are interested in vibe coding, I think it was a few episodes ago we did it. So you can look through the feed, but it's like basically called How to Vibe Code. And I took it to heart, and I've like really leaned into my Cursor settings. For those that don't know, Cursor is a text editor that has AI baked in. So as opposed to you needing to copy and paste the results from an LLM into your source code, it can just write it for you and automatically debug. And I think out of the box, it took a little bit of tweaking and configuring, but once I actually went through it and I spent a couple hours like truly tweaking my project, describing what everything does to Cursor, like my velocity has increased dramatically. I mean, it probably is like 2 or 3 times faster than like actually going and pasting the code in from the LLM. So it's like it feels like you're cheating. It's wild how good it is. And I actually have also tried to use 4.5 in Cursor, and then Cursor told me that after a couple of requests, it's like all right, you are towards your usage limit now, so you need to upgrade. And like I don't know. To me, I felt like it wasn't that much better than just the auto results from Cursor. And also another thing is, because it's a reasoning model, it's a bit slower as well in giving responses. So I don't know. I'm not in love with the model. I don't think it was giving me a dramatically better results than like Grok or GPT-5. And I actually think that GPT-5 has been kind of my go-to model if I want something more complicated. I'd say it's been the best for me so far.
I think the benchmarks kind of reflect that. So Sonnet 4.5 is like 82% in SweBench, whereas Sonnet 4 is 80%. So it's like a pretty minor incremental difference, but better is better. I think I'm glad that Anthropic is pushing the frontier forward. They're topping the charts in a lot of different other domains, other benchmarks as well. So yeah, happy to see them make progress. I'm going to show some of the results here for those of you on audio. I'm showing a bunch of benchmarks. They seem to be topping the charts in agentic coding, terminal coding, computer use, financial analysis, if you guys are interested in that. Agentic tool use, in some cases it's better, but there are a lot of other cases where some of the competitors still have a better model. So visual reasoning, you'd be better off with GPT-5. With graduate level reasoning, so I think this has been true with Gemini for a while, because they just generate a lot of tokens. So graduate level reasoning would be better with Gemini 2.5 Pro. So pick your tool for your choice, your specific use case. I don't think there's a one size fits all. Even though Sonnet is really good in a lot of different domains, it's very expensive. And like Mark was saying, you run through credits really fast. Whereas with Gemini, they're pretty gracious with the credits, because they own the entire stack end to end with the TPUs, the model, and the inference. We have Google Cloud, so we're able to serve the models the entire stack and have some efficiencies in that. And then GPT-5, similarly, they're on their 5th version, and they have really close partnerships with NVIDIA, Microsoft, other hyperscalers, and they've been able to do a lot of clever stuff with model routing to get the price point down. So I think in most use cases, I would also pick a more cost-effective model.
Yes, I think that's actually a really good point. So I'm working on a project, and there are certain things where I don't actually need the best LLM, right? Because the best LLM for all of them is kind of expensive. So for some of the things, I was able to make a simplified prompt and then use some logic and code where if I could validate the response, and then I could kind of have like a loop and keep prompting the model to say like, hey, you messed this up, like try again. And I was able to use some incredibly fast and cheap models as well. So I was actually able to use like Llama 8B or Llama 70B in order to handle my use case. And it saved a lot of money. So like it didn't get it in one shot. Like it was actually faster and cheaper to like, query Llama like 3 times and then have it like try to improve itself because like the response was so fast. Than it was to ask, GPT-5 once, right? Even though GPT-5 got it right the first time, it's like the latency with GPT-5 versus like how many really fast providers there are for the Llama models. It seemed to work out. So, but one other thing that I would mention to the listeners is you don't necessarily have to pay for all the models. I was running into issues with Claude, for example, when I subscribed to the $20 a month plan. But here's one other idea for you guys. OpenRouter. So Shashank put me onto them, and it's fantastic. So the way it works is OpenRouter is a LLM aggregator. So what you do is you go and then put on X amount of dollars onto OpenRouter. So let's say you put $20 in, and then OpenRouter is going to charge some sort of commission on top of that. So it's like if you put in, let's say $20, you might get like $19 worth of LLM credits, and then you're just paying through OpenRouter. So OpenRouter has a single fixed API that you can connect to, and then it will go and then route to any LLM that you want. So if you're programming, you can just use the OpenRouter API and then just say like, I want to use this model, or on their website, you can ask as many OpenRouter respond from as many models as you want. So let's say you're working on a really gnarly problem. You can say, all right, hey, OpenRouter, send this prompt and then send it to like GPT-5, Grok, Claude, Opus, and Gemini 2.5. And then all of them will just respond as soon as it gets the response back. And that's really nice because it can also route around and find the models that have the least amount of capacity constraints. So one issue that I've been running into when I use a lot of these APIs directly is sometimes, I don't want to say any company's name directly, but I ran into this problem a lot with Google actually, where I tried to use the Gemini 2.5 Pro directly through their API, and it was probably about one every 3 times or something that I tried it. It would say, we can't serve your request, there's too much demand, and try again later. So that's been unfortunate, but if I can use OpenRouter, I can avoid that kind of issue.
Yeah, again, we're not sponsored. It was just a cool tool that I found when I went to this conference, and I really like their business model because they handle availability, they handle latency and cost across multiple providers. So you want an OpenAI GPT-5 API, they'll pick the one with the lowest latency. You would think that OpenAI would have the lowest latency model, but not always. It depends on where you are located, which hyperscaler has the best availabilities. Azure might be a little cheaper this month versus Amazon, which might be a little more expensive, or Google, blah, blah, blah. Some services might be down, like Mark was mentioning, and some services might not have data centers near you. So they handle all of this abstraction for you, and then always guarantee some kind of availability at the best price, and a lot of other added benefits on top of using a single model, like Mark was mentioning, the ability to send off a request to multiple models. If you guys are listening, we'd love some sponsorships.
Yeah, OpenRouter. I know you're probably listening, so we will make ads for you. Send us an email, send us a DM in the comments, and we'd be happy to, shill your product. I think it's a fantastic.
And speaking of fast models, here's another one from Elon and XAI. They've done like an incredibly amazing job at building out the world's largest single cluster data center. And now they have Grok 4 Fast, which apparently is pretty good. And it was, I was screen sharing earlier, it was on the top of the list of most used models in OpenRouter. So it seems like people really like it. It seems really fast. It's not the best, like Anthropic's Sonnet model claims to be, but it is really fast. And I think Elon's able to do a lot of fancy accounting to offer it at a reasonable price point. And I'm not entirely sure how they managed to get it so much better and so much faster than the older Grok 4 model, while still maintaining really good capability across multiple benchmarks. In some benchmarks, it's actually better. So, these models are moving so fast. The training process is kind of like black magic, and you don't always get a consistently better progress all the time. But overall, this seems to be a no-brainer to switch from the regular Grok 4, if you've been using that, to the Grok 4 Fast.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know how they're able to make it so cheap. So for reference, for I think it's 100 for 1 million tokens, it's like 20 cents per input and then 50 cents per million output tokens, which is like really, really cheap. So for reference, I believe the Claude 4.5 Sonnet, like the newest one from Anthropic, is $3 per million input and then $15 per million output. So this is 20 cents and 50 cents. I mean, that is just silly how cheap that is. Like, I don't know if they're losing money on that, but that is really, really good. And it seems like just as good as the regular Grok 4. So, I mean, it is very possible they're losing money on that. I don't know, because it seems like an absolute no-brainer to switch over to Grok 4 Fast. And to be fair, like, also Grok 4 was a little bit slow. So like I would oftentimes like make my request to Grok 4, like go watch like a 5-minute YouTube video, come back and get the response, right? So with Grok 4 Fast, it's almost immediate and it's way cheaper. So good job, Elon. I mean, I'm very impressed, and it's definitely not like the newest, best model, but it is the around the same performance but way cheaper. What this kind of reminds me of is, how like Intel or whatever, they'd have like the Moore's law, and then they would have their like TikTok cycle, where it would be like, okay, 1 year they're gonna make it more powerful, and then the next year they're gonna make it just like the same amount of power but like cheaper and more efficient, and they would just do that every year. It's like, okay, the Tick, I forget which one was which. I think like Tick was like cheaper, Talk was more powerful, and it really kind of feels like we're on that, but like with steroids, with LLMs, or just like, okay, more powerful, same power but cheaper, more powerful, cheaper, more powerful, cheaper, and then then LLMs will just eat the world.
Who else is on that, maybe not TikTok cycle, but a yearly release cycle is NVIDIA, which has been unheard of in the GPU space before, because I think usually the release cycles were like several years, but now NVIDIA is finally on like a yearly release train. They've got a bunch of different chips coming out for the next few years, and never before, I think, has there been a situation where someone's placing a $50 billion purchase order and is ready to accept the next generation of chips without trying it out just blindly. But I think NVIDIA has developed a lot of goodwill and a lot of cachet in this AI community, because they seem to be the dominant players, the leaders in this space. They've invested a significant chunk, like $100 billion, if I remember, in OpenAI recently. They invested some money into Intel to try to build a partnership with them and save this American dying giant. And I am really, really bullish on NVIDIA, despite them, I think, being the most valuable company in the US, if not the world right now.
Yeah, what are they, a $4 trillion company now?
I think they are, yes, they are a $4.59 trillion company, which is just insane numbers.
That is silly. I don't know. To me, like...
I think, based on a recent interview with Jensen at the BG2 pod with Bill Gurley and Brad Gerstner, who are very influential figures in Silicon Valley, investors, and they've been having this conversation with Jensen for the last few years, and they were talking about if NVIDIA is like... at like a bubble-like valuation, or if there's actual substance behind these numbers. And it actually seems, based on the conversation they had, that it is priced a little lower in terms of their PE ratio when you compare it to other companies, because they are growing at a rapid pace. The amount of people who have a demand for NVIDIA chips keeps growing. They're honestly like trying to sell them as fast as they can, and no other company has the amount of acceleration in their entire system as NVIDIA does. We've been talking occasionally about some specialized compute chips like Cerebrus, for example, Samba Nova, Grok with the Q, which is a chip that specializes on inference compute, and they can shell out tokens way faster than a single NVIDIA chip. But that's if you look at it in isolation. When you think about actually serving this, if you are OpenAI, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, you serve this by the billions of requests every single day. So at that scale, you can't just rely on a single chip. You have to think about data center scale. You have to think about gigawatt level energy utilization. You have to think about massive server farms, which have a lot of different bottlenecks apart from just the chip. So NVIDIA has been building this entire ecosystem with a bunch of different partners. I think CoreWeave was one of the popular recent investments that they made that helps them build different parts of this system. Everything from the chip to the networking equipment, the switches, the cables, the server racks, the cooling, everything. And not everyone buys this entire system. Amazon or Google, they have their own cloud services, so they just buy the chip and integrate it into their liquid cooling server racks with fancy networking, proprietary networking that they have. But other companies or other nation states now, like the Middle East, for example, they're buying entire systems. They're buying systems from Cerebrus, but I'm sure they're doing the same with NVIDIA's systems. And these systems as a whole, as far as I know, are the fastest. And they're getting like crazy numbers. They're getting like 30x improvements over the previous generation of Hopper. So Blackwell is like 30x, even though the actual chip may be 50, 70% better, like best case. That's still wild numbers, but the overall improvement of this entire system is 30x. That is like ridiculous. That's 30,000% or something, if I'm doing my math right. So these are wild numbers. The demand keeps going up. And like an interesting way to think about it, he was talking about how OpenAI's, you can think about OpenAI's growth, to think about like the kind of exponentials that it's going through like exponential user growth. It's one of the fastest growing products in history. Like the number of users is just like hockey stick going up. The amount of money that they're spending, or the amount of tokens that they're spending, is also like hockey stick going up, because we went from one shot generation, just like, hey, tell me about this thing, blah, it gives you a big page of text. Now we're going to inference time compute, where it's thinking. It's burning through an order of magnitude more tokens than before to do a lot of thinking, and as a result, spend a lot more compute, a lot more energy to give you a much more reasoned, well thought out answer with thinking models. And then we're going through another exponential with agentic AI, where we're running agents asynchronously, having them do work for us, and then come back and return a result later on with like deep research or deep think, and a lot of the asynchronous coding agents. And then we'll have like even more exponentials with not just text, but now we just demoed Sora. So generating video, audio, and synchronizing them together is another order of magnitude. So like the amount of compute that is being required as we progress through this AI revolution is just like mind-boggling. It's the result of multiple exponentials, and I think NVIDIA is like positioned really, really well to take advantage of this.
So I agree, and I actually don't. I think that NVIDIA definitely could be a $10 trillion company.
I think it will be. It's only a matter of time.
I think there's a few different points to unpack here. So first of all, is I think that NVIDIA would probably be a $10 trillion company no matter what, just because like the U.S. government just keeps printing more money, right? So I think that, just due to devaluation in the currency, like we're going to see NVIDIA be $10 trillion. So, and then another thing is that like, we have to think about like, what is the definition of market cap? So I know I just feel like this is more a financial argument, but like, I think that, when we think about market cap is the number of shares outstanding times the share price, right? So if a lot of people really believe in the hype of NVIDIA, they're not going to sell their shares. So the marginal share that gets sold needs to be bid up and bid up higher. So it's like, maybe NVIDIA, if it doubles its share price because a lot of people really believe in it, it doesn't necessarily have to have like a lot of fundamental value. It will just keep going higher.
I can stop you right there and change the metric to revenue. I think they're going to double their revenue in maybe like 2 years.
Okay, well that is different. So that makes sense, but also I'm a little concerned about NVIDIA in particular because it does feel a little bit of a shell game, right? Because it's like you have NVIDIA giving money to OpenAI, who then OpenAI turns around and then buys NVIDIA GPUs. And then it's like you have NVIDIA buying Intel. How do we know that Intel won't buy NVIDIA GPUs? It's like, it feels like a very circular dependency type thing where NVIDIA has all this extra free cash flow. It's like, oh, what do we do with all this money? Let's invest in AI companies. The AI companies have nothing better to do than to give NVIDIA more money. It feels like very circular, right? Where it's like, if NVIDIA never gave OpenAI that money, would OpenAI be giving NVIDIA those, like all the money to buy the GPUs? I mean, like it feels kind of like an infinite money glitch, but it also feels a little bit strange to have this like circular dependency where like NVIDIA gives money to a company, that company then buys NVIDIA GPUs, NVIDIA gets more money to give back to the company who can buy more NVIDIA GPUs. And then also it's like, if you have things like Grok 4 Fast, which are just going down in price, like I'm with you that the demand for tokens will increase. The demand for LLMs will probably increase. Like the demand is there, right? But like, will these companies achieve huge financial benefit? I think that is less clear, right? Because it's like, if you have a lot of these models, they're going to be open sourced, and then the price is going to go down to zero, and maybe you could even argue, like, I don't know, but maybe some of these companies are even losing money on inference. Not sure. I think Anthropic definitely is not. Grok 4 Fast, who knows? Like, it's very unclear if these companies are actually making money for each additional token used. It kind of reminds me of the joke where it's like, oh, don't worry, we'll sell $1 for 50 cents, but we'll make it up in volume. And that's really what it feels like with NVIDIA, where they're just like, it's not clear. Like, I mean, sure, they're making a lot of revenue on paper, but it's like there's a lot of things you can do with accounting to make that better. And I don't know. Like, to me, it feels very bubbly. So I mean, I hope they do hit $10 trillion or $20 trillion or whatever, but it's not clear to me if all that revenue is like completely legitimate due to like a lot of that shell game that it seems like is going on.
Let me ask you a question. How many AI services are you paying for right now?
I pay for like 4 right now.
Yeah. How much is that per month?
I'm paying like probably between $70 and $100 a month.
$70 to $100 a month.
Yeah.
What other subscription have you had before ChatGPT came out that was like $50 to $100 per month?
Ooh, I mean, like, I guess my car insurance or
car insurance.
Yeah.
So, AI spend per person is now on the order of magnitude of car insurance, whereas before, I think people were spending, I don't know, how much was your is an iCloud subscription like $2?
Yeah, $2, $3.
$2-3
yeah,
a month.
It's
so
not much.
It's like an order of magnitude more, and everyone is using this. And enterprises are using this, and the usage is only increasing. If you have intelligence that you can just buy, rent, why wouldn't you just buy all of the intelligence that you could if you had some kind of a flywheel that you can use to generate value? And I think that's what most companies, even individuals, are thinking of. I know in practice the models and the usage may sometimes be less capable than our hopes or expectations, but they are really useful.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that it's really useful, but I think I'm also not the correct person to ask, like, how much are you paying for LLMs?
Sure.
Because I am a complete LLM enthusiast,
Sure.
right? Like, we've been running this podcast now for, what, like 2 years or something like that? And, you know, we also run a meetup, like, specifically for AI. Like, my parents, they use OpenAI, but they do not pay for it. They use the free version. And I think that a lot of people I know, like, sure, I think we surround ourselves with like mega enthusiasts, but as soon as we get outside of this bubble of Silicon Valley, outside of the bubble of like complete enthusiasts who are just like paying for this, like I don't know. I actually don't know the answer to this, but like I'd be curious to see like a breakdown of like what percentage of people who are requesting these tokens are actually paying for it. And I would be willing to bet it's probably like 80-20 or something like that. Like I'm sure that the demand is going up, but like if they made it where it wasn't free, like it'd be not clear if that demand would continue to go up.
I mean, there's one article from Reuters that says OpenAI generated $4.3 billion in revenue in the first half of 2025, and they spent around $2.5 billion, which is mostly research development costs for developing these models and running ChatGPT. That is a lot of money, and I know it might be the case of spending $1 to make half a dollar and trying to make that up in volume. But I think we've all learned that lesson from the on-demand space with Uber, Instacart, and all these other companies trying to subsidize the cost of a product or service through VC funding and in that rush to try to get users. And I don't think OpenAI specifically is trying to do that. As far as I know, they have close to 1 billion users. I think they have like 800 million active users or something. They're not in like any kind of a position to struggle to get users. I think they're strictly working on trying to generate revenue. I think they recently hired some exec who was in charge of ads at some other company, which shows that they're trying to figure out monetization. They're trying to figure out their finances to maybe IPO. I'm not sure, but they're definitely making a lot of money.
Yeah. So I asked Grok and I asked what percentage of LLM users actually are paying, and it said around 3 to 5%. So assuming that's directionally correct, let's even say it was 10% of users, which probably isn't the case, but let's say it was 90-10. Well, I mean, sure, it's easy to say like, okay, yeah, demand is going up, energy usage is going up, token usage are going up, but like and even like the revenue is going up, but like, I mean, sure, it's like it just feels like people are giving away things for free. And if you're giving away things for free, people are going to take it. It's like, imagine I went to, the street corner and I said, hey, everybody, I'm making hamburgers. Like, come and eat. And it's like, sure. Like, I could probably get a lot of people to come and take my free food, right? Especially if it's like, oh, wait, no. And then somebody else came. It's like, oh, well, you got hamburgers. Well, I got steak, right? It's like, oh, you have steak. Well, I've got caviar and like lobsters over here. And it seems like everybody is kind of just like fighting for the mass of people to like go and give them free things. And, sure, like the demand for like steak, caviar, and lobster went up metaphorically, but is that sustainable? It's like, no, it's not. That's not sustainable growth. And it's like, sure, you could look to say like the demand is going up, the energy usage is going up, the tokens going up. Like even like if you bring a crowd, like some people are going to upgrade to pay for their drinks at this metaphorical restaurant where everything is free. But it just feels like a lot of it's like hype and not like completely sustainable.
Yeah, I think the extreme case might be true, what you're saying, where there are companies spending a lot, but I think this is here to stay. I don't think anyone would argue otherwise. I think there are probably a lot of companies making money, especially companies like DeepSeek that are smart about how they, where they invest money and figure out creative ways of extracting stuff and extracting benefits from other companies who are doing all the hard work and research. But I'm reading another article that says they spent about $6.5 billion, OpenAI did, in their first half of 2025 and made $4.3 billion. So I think the tricky part here, which is different from the on-demand world where you just focused on unit economics, this is kind of different because it's more like you're putting a lot of money in upfront costs in training the model, which is very, very expensive. It might be similar to, the analogy of selling smartphones. You put a lot of investment upfront into a single architecture of chip, of a phone design, material science, all of that, and then decide to sell an iPhone 17 for a certain price to make it up based on certain volume that you expect you're going to sell. Because I don't think they're solely focused on the inference, cost of offering inference. All of the cost is upfront in paying like hundreds, if not billions of dollars for the research team, figuring out how much to spend on these training runs, acquiring the data, getting humans to label that synthetic data. And then try to amortize that over the lifetime of that model and recoup those costs.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I partially agree. I think that the problem is that the half-life of these LLMs is pretty short, right? So, I personally switch LLMs very quickly, and tools like Open Router make it really easy to switch. It's like, oh, I found out today it's like Grok 4 fast is slightly better, so let me just change my string, change my environment variable, and then I can just like easily switch over to that model. Like the switching cost is close to zero. But if I have an iPhone, it's pretty hard to switch over, right? It's like it's a physical device that you carry around. I have all my contacts in it. Like I have to go buy another thing. I think it's not the same, right? Like it's really hard to switch. And also like all these other companies are competing really hard, right? So it's like, we were just talking earlier to say like, okay, Claude 4.5 came out, but it's like, do I want to use that because it's like a little bit slow and a little bit expensive, even though it does seem slightly better. It's like, oh, maybe we should use Grok 4 fast, maybe we should use GPT-5. It's like all these companies are spending a similar amount of money to make these models, and the only way they're actually going to be able to get the market share, I think, is to lower the price, and like eventually they're going to lower the price to where they're maybe not making money. And also, it's like, name me a company that makes a phone that is like super profitable that isn't Apple. I mean, like a lot of these companies aren't making that much money on their phone itself. They make money on the back end, right? So it's like, I don't want to say other companies, but it's like, it's very well.
You can say whatever you want. You're unemployed right now.
That's true. But like the way a lot of these companies make money, is they will actually lose money on the hardware and then make it up through like other things on the back end, maybe showing you ads, maybe subscriptions. So for example, if I buy an Android phone, maybe like because in my out of box experience, I'm setting the phone up, they're going to show me a bunch of things that I could sign up for. Maybe I sign up for storage, maybe I sign up for some subscriptions, and that's actually how they make the money. And I think that it might be how LLMs are going to ultimately figure out how to make their money is, well, I mean, why do you think OpenAI is trying to make a social network? They're obviously going to try to show ads on the social network, or like in the LLM results, like they're going to start showing ads like, hey, like this is your answer, but like here's a company that does the thing that you want. I mean, like it's not here now, but it is definitely coming. And I really think that's how they're going to actually make these business models somewhat sustainable, is they're going to like have ads and other add-ons. But I don't think anybody's going to actually make money like by just selling these LLMs. I mean, I just don't think that's going to be the way they do it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to get some expert from like the pricing team or something, one of these companies, to give us their opinion. Maybe we can do some research and get back to you all next time. But one thing I did want to point, what was it? You talked about a lot of things.
Well, we also didn't talk about the browser yet either.
That's right. So apart from all of these, one thing that I did want to mention, you talked about the switching costs being virtually zero.
Yep.
Yes, but individuals aren't the only ones using these LLMs. A big chunk of spending is coming from enterprise who have like a system prompt, and prompt engineering this workflow to get this LLM to do one thing really, really well. And so once you've established like a pipeline, a workflow, or even an agent that runs in a loop to figure out when it should stop executing tokens, you don't want to like switch models willy-nilly. You have a bunch of evals that you need to run. You want to make sure that there are no regressions. And these benchmarks are just like the tip of the iceberg. Each company that's an enterprise company that's working with LLMs to solve a very specific use case, they'll have their own eval set, and it might be wildly different from these things that we see online. It might have nothing to do with like the GPQA Diamond or Live Code Bench, and it might be very nuanced to their specific data. And so it's not that clear that just because Sonnet 4.5 is supposedly better in a bunch of benchmarks according to Anthropic, it's going to be necessarily better for you, for your use case. And then you have to figure out, okay, what is the return on that investment? It's a newer model. It's going to be a little more expensive. Should I just stick with the older model that solves 100% of my current use cases? And so it's not that easy of a decision to switch models if you have it working live with paying customers.
Yeah, I agree that the people who make wrappers around LLM, or they're integrating into their use case, the switching cost is non-trivial. But I don't know how many people are actually like that, right?
I think there's tons.
I mean, there is, but like if I tell my parents like, hey, you can now go to like grok.com.
Not a consumer.
Yeah. Sure.
That's why I mentioned enterprise use cases.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the enterprise use case will be there, and the enterprise are willing to pay. But will that get NVIDIA to a $10 trillion company? Who's to say?
And another thing that I want to mention is I don't feel like wrapper is an appropriate description of what these companies do. That feels like a very derogatory term, because like you could just say like Heroku is a wrapper for AWS or something.
I mean, isn't that what it is? I mean, I think that's a pretty apt description.
Kind of, but if it diminishes the amount of effort and work it takes to build out a product. That doesn't mean like you can just walk out tomorrow and build your own Heroku. It'd be very hard to build your own Heroku on top of AWS and offer everything that they do, and have like the kind of reliability that they do with how many ever nines of guarantee that they have. For sure.
I mean, like, I don't want to diminish Heroku, and I think that it could be a derogatory way of describing it. And I agree with you, but I also think that it's also like kind of like an appropriate way of describing it. So it's like, how else would you describe Heroku other than like a wrapper on AWS that, you know, abstracts away the complexity for you? Whereas like, I think that like a lot of things are just like, a lot of companies are making domain specific logic for their customers on top of an LLM, where they wrap the LLM with some domain specific logic. I don't like I mean, I didn't think it was derogatory term. Like I thought that was just like a way of describing that particular, you know, behavior or like, you know, architecture, right? Or it's just like you build on top of something else. So you're a wrapper, right? Like a browser is like a wrapper around HTTP.
Mm. Right. You're thinking in a very analytical sense. I think I was remembering all of the hate around ChatGPT wrappers 2 years ago when ChatGPT first came out, and then they were kind of condemning these companies, saying that you can never build a sustainable business if you just put a wrapper around ChatGPT and add a system prompt and have that be the entire product. And people were kind of confused or had trouble raising funding or convincing other people that this would be a sustainable business. But now we have tons and tons of startups. You know, like you could say Cursor is just a wrapper around Anthropic or Claude, but you know, it's still very hard to productize that. There's a lot that still needs to go on top of a wrapper around an LLM to make it useful, and then iron out all of the kinks, because these LLMs are very non-deterministic and they hallucinate, and a lot of other issues that these wrappers need to think through.
Well, I don't know. I actually think that I would make the argument that like, so let's just go with wrapper for the rest of this conversation. Yeah. But I like, okay, so I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but I actually think that these wrappers are going to be where the majority of the revenue and the income and the profitability will come from these companies, right? Because the thing is these LLMs are, in a certain sense, just very general purpose. That they can solve any problem, and they can solve it pretty well, right? And I think for a lot of people, they're fine just, you know, going to the LLM directly. But I think there's many use cases where people will want to find, for a better word, a wrapper around the LLM and then solve their particular use case better, right? So it's like, I was telling you before about how I used to take my source code, copy it into Grok or OpenAI, and then I would paste it, and then I would move it back into my text editor, right? So that was a pretty inefficient way of, you know, programming. But then after I, you know, went and, you know, really dove into Cursor, I made it so that now Cursor can read my source code, and then it can copy the code and paste it into the LLM, and then automatically make the changes for me. And I think Cursor can just continue to improve that coding experience, which is, you know, a domain-specific logic, and then it can just trivially switch out whatever model there is, right? So it's like, as the price of the models go down, as the models get better, Cursor will just get better and better and better. And I don't know. I think that is kind of what we're going to see in many other use cases where companies like Cursor will make tons of money by helping customers solve their particular use case better.
I absolutely agree. I think on that note, to expand upon the specialized, very focused use cases that, you know, in some simplistic terms, build a wrapper around an LLM. There's a bunch of other different coding agents that you should also check out, and it will kind of be like a primer for our upcoming event. So for all of our listeners, if you're in the Bay Area, we are going to have a massive, very, very exciting event. This is like the most exciting event for me personally since we started this, because it's going to be focused on coding agents, where we're going to bring in a bunch of different companies across the entire development workflow for engineers. Everything from like the IDE, we have someone from Zen, which is like a very performant IDE. We have Augment Code, which is a full stack enterprise focused coding agent, which will like index your code and give you a lot of suggestions. Code Flash, which optimizes your Python code. So you talked about some hitting compute roadblocks where you were trying to, render video. I think they might be able to help you optimize some of your code, but they only focus on Python. Factory AI, which is also, in the realm of coding agents, but they focus on asynchronous coding agents. So you could like fire off some tasks asynchronously, especially if it's small, and if you think it's pretty easy to be solved by an LLM, just make like a list, fire of all these tasks, and it'll like take some time, do some thinking, do some research, solve it, and then send out a PR for you to review, and then code wrap it. They review your PR for you, so you can like have all of these things be like your agentic dev team working together in parallel or synchronously, asynchronously, helping you ship faster. So
yeah, this event is going to be super fun. I'm actually staying in the Bay Area another week just to go to it. And if you guys are interested, you really should RSVP as soon as possible, because the spots are filling up really quickly, and we will be checking names. So if you're not RSVP'd, we will not let you in. So there's I think 135 spots left. And yeah, you're gonna have to be on the list for us to let you in, because there's like fire codes. We can't let in too many people. So if you want to come, like RSVP now, or else like we will not let you into the event.
On Thursday 9th in Palo Alto at 6 p.m. But we had one final thing to talk about, which is browsers. So I think this space has been maturing. We had a couple different announcements with Dia, which is a product from the browser company. They used to have another popular browser, but they realized this is a realization that I've had too while working on some side projects and talking to a couple other people. It's hard to make people switch a very basic app, especially like communication utility browser. Browser is a very fundamental app. It's almost like as integral to someone as the OS. It's the gateway to the web, and most people by a wide margin use Chrome, and it's hard to get people to use something else unless you're like someone like Mark, who's on the bleeding edge and experimenting with a lot of things and takes risks and tries stuff. But I think now is probably the best time ever to rethink these fundamental apps like messaging, social media, browsers. And so there have been a bunch of companies that have been experimenting this space. Dia was one of them. Mark can tell us a little bit about that. But then the other one that I was kind of excited about, and I can finally use right now, which I haven't yet, is Comet from Perplexity. It allows you to, I believe, take action, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And do research for you. It's a fully AI-powered browser that is free and available to everyone. Previously, it was only available to their pro, premium, whatever, $200 a month tier subscribers, but now it's available and it seems pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to try Comet. I actually just downloaded it, so I don't have any insights on it yet. Probably next time I'll have some more insights on it, but because I actually just got the invite as well to try it out. So next week we'll talk about it. But I have also tried to use Dia as my daily driver for a couple weeks, and it's a wonderful browser. It is very fast. It is very modern looking. I like it. It's really convenient to have an LLM built into it, which can see your screen. So you could do things like summarize a page, summarize a YouTube video, compare one page to another page. That is wonderful because it really it eliminates steps in my workflow, right? So just like how we had the conversation about with Cursor, I don't need to copy and paste the code. If I want to summarize a web page, I don't need to copy and paste the body of the web page. I can just say, summarize this, or do whatever I want on that page. And then also, like, because you are on the page, you have all like the session cookies and whatnot, so you're already logged in. So if you want to ask particular things about like your specific data, the browser can see that. So that is incredibly exciting, and it works well. However, unfortunately, I switched back from Dia to Brave, and the main reason is because I wasn't using the LLM features as much as I thought, because I primarily use LLM for programming, and it was kind of nice to like be able to summarize YouTube videos or summarize web pages, but I just like wasn't using it as much as I thought I would, and I was kind of missing some of the features from Brave. So like Brave is like a very privacy focused browser. It has like really robust ad blocking built in, and it has like other things like tab grouping. So like I like to kind of organize my browser tabs, and Dia wasn't able to let me organize the browser tabs and tab grouping, and I also had to like install a bunch of like ad blockers, and it just like didn't work quite the way I wanted it to, that Brave already did. And actually Brave has like an LLM built into it as well.
Oh.
Yeah, which I don't really use much either, but it has it. So I don't know. I think that like the LLM in Dia was a little bit better, because Dia I think was from the browser company. But I did switch back. I did see that also Chrome, they have an LLM now built in, which looks pretty exciting. But I don't use Chrome, so I may switch back and try it again.
It's fantastic. I think I kind of agree with you. So I've been using the Gemini in Chrome feature, which is kind of like a Chrome extension, but it has higher priority because Google owns Chrome, and we're able to show that little Gemini icon at the top right of Chrome. So if you see that, click it, and it'll allow you to talk to an LLM which shares context about the page that you're in, after you give it permission, of course, and ask anything about it. Usually I ask it to summarize things that I'm looking at, ask it to critique things, like just questions. If I'm looking at some medical information, I'm like, hey, like, what does this mean? Or like, what would this imply? But I think I've had a similar experience where those are the minority of the use cases. Usually I'm a very active browser. I have a specific agenda when I'm browsing. It's like very functional. I check my emails, I take notes, or I have these tools that I need to use, and like I'm very active. I'm doing these things. If it can do things for me, I have yet to see a tool that can do that. Maybe Perplexity's Comet can do that. That will significantly change how I use LLMs. But that kind of makes sense with why you use Cursor a lot, because it is able to give you a lot more return than just a question answering tool. It's able to like actually do things for you. It's able to code, which is used to be your livelihood, and it's still your profession, however you'd like to call it. But for me, apart from the browser, the most popular way to use an LLM is just like whip out my phone and ask my phone some questions. It's built into Android and Pixel specifically. And I love that integration. I've been waiting for Apple to introduce it. I think it's kind of working with Siri, but Google is still way better in terms of an AI native integration in your phone. It's able to pull context from my screen. It's able to, answer questions about like pictures that I take, have like this live, I don't know what to call it. It's like live experience, Gemini Live. Yeah. So I whip out my camera and it shows a live feed. It looks at everything that I'm looking at with my phone's camera, and answers questions in real time. And I'm able to have a conversation with it. So I think in terms of where you use AI, the phone is my primary go-to, apart from work, because any kind of knowledge work, anyone who's working with any form of text, and code is a form of text, I think that will also be a primary use case for AI. And then I think lastly is browser. And what would take my AI browser usage from the minor 10% that it is now to a significant chunk is if you can like take action for me.
Yeah, so it kind of reminds me of the Amazon X-ray tool, where if you were like, I think it was in Kindle, where if you're reading a book, you can get information kind of like as you're reading. So for example, if I wanted to know about like the author or something like that of the book, you could get it. And I was actually just trying to look up to it to find it, because it was something I remember using. But it was a cool feature, right? And I think that what is the word for ambient computing is something that you'll see more and more, right? Where you will just as you're using your device, little bits of helpful context will pop up for you. So, for example, if I'm reading an article, maybe in the top right corner, it could give me a little bit of information about the author, or maybe it could give me metadata about the article, or like a YouTube video that I'm watching. And I think we're going to see more and more things like that, which will be powered by AI. And I think that is really cool, and we won't have to prompt it. It'll just like tell you things and give you helpful information about the world. I think that is what we're going to start seeing more and more. Like we've already seen a little bit like in the Kindles, and I think that you're right. Like that use case is really cool. And I don't actually want to have to like think about what I'm going to prompt. I want just like the LLM to just tell me things, make me happy. That's what I'm looking for. But,
awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's all we have on the agenda today, but we will see you all again next time. But until then.
Yes. See you next time. We'll see you guys at the event. And then if you have any questions for us, don't forget to ask that on YouTube. So we've had some questions in the past, but we're looking for more. So any questions that you have for us, post it on YouTube and we will get back to you. So yeah, that's all. Thanks for listening. Catch you in the next one.